Hi, how you doing? I am so glad you guys are here. I hope that by the title of what this broadcast is that you feel something. Maybe you feel scared. Maybe you feel motivated. Maybe you feel like hope is out there and that maybe there's help. And that's the point of this broadcast. So hi, my name is Becky Higgins, for those of you who are less familiar, and I'm the creator of Project Life, which in the world of scrapbooking, everyone knows is kind of the solution-based, back to basics scrapbooking system. But I'm not here to talk specifically about Project Life, Project Life, Project Life. I could all day long talk about Project Life, but I'm going to back it up to something that isn't dealt with a lot, and that is this problem that a lot of us feel, and I do understand and I do relate to it. And I won't tell you the whole story as to why, but I know that a lot of you that are watching have scrapbooked in the past, and perhaps you don't anymore. And maybe it's been a year, maybe it's been 5 or 10 or 20 years. It's been a long time and you haven't scrapbooked. And I have to say, I don't come from this place of feeling like everyone has to scrapbook. That's not my philosophy. I wish that everyone did something with their pictures, but it doesn't always translate to scrapbooks per se. Like some people are excellent journal keepers or they do other things, but scrapbooking, as many of us know, whether we're doing it currently or we've done it in the past, is such a great, beautiful way to bring pictures and stories together. It's the way that we can leave our legacy. It's a way that we can reflect on our blessings and our memories. And there's so many good things to scrapbooking, right? But the reason why we're jumping on Facebook Live right now today and talking about this is that because I know that many of you who are watching used to scrapbook, and that's the key word. I think there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm a scrapbooker. And then you actually like dive in a little deeper and realize that maybe you're not scrapbooking so much as you are collecting product. Or maybe, you just quit the whole thing altogether because you're like, what am I doing, right? How do I get back into this? And so that's what I'm addressing today. I'm going to go through some of the comments that you guys shared with me on social media that many of you will absolutely connect with. So don't leave because this is going to resonate with you in some way. I feel that. And I want to help you. And that's the whole point of me jumping on here is this is not going to be an hour-long thing. It's not going to take a big chunk of your day, but there's something valuable that's going to come out of this. And I'm going to share a few of the comments that you guys have left for me on social media. And then toward the end, I'm going to share what I feel is a very solid 3-step solution to what you can do if you are interested in getting back into scrapbooking in some way. It doesn't have to be something that takes over your life like maybe it did 15 years ago, but it can be something. So that's why I want you to stick around, okay? And by the way, if you know somebody that is a used to be scrapbooker, this is almost a little different than somebody who's never scrapbooked ever in their entire life. There's some similarities in what I'm approaching and how I'm approaching it, but I'm specifically talking to those of you who used to scrapbook. So if you have a friend, someone that you know who is in that category, please tag them and let them know about this broadcast so that they can also benefit from understanding that there is hope, all right? So let's dive into some of the comments that you guys left. So on social media the other day, I think it was like late last week, maybe. Maybe it was even over the weekend, I don't remember anymore. Doesn't matter. So I said something along the lines of, hey, if you used to scrapbook and you don't anymore, how long has it been and why did you stop? And we got so much feedback. You know why we got so much feedback? Because this is a real issue. It's a real thing. It's a real problem, and it's relevant, and it's something that's just kind of like helping people to feel that much more frustrated with scrapbooking. So let me read and share with you a few of the comments that we got, not just to read them, but I have a thought that I'm going to share to each one of these. So even though these are specific, like I said, they're kind of broad enough that a lot of people will relate. So comment number 1, and I'm not going to point anyone out by name. She says, it has been about 6 years since I have really scrapbooked, which is also when I was divorced. I really have a hard time with the thought of revisiting pictures and memories of a time that we were happy, she says with air quotes, because I know the real story behind that day. Most of my kids' pictures have their dad in them, which makes me even less motivated to create a page. I really love to scrapbook, but I don't know how to get past this barrier. So what's the big message here? Barrier. There are 1,000 barriers to why people have stopped scrapbooking. And we could go through the full list. Right now, we're focusing on this barrier that's kind of more of an emotional thing for her. She was divorced, she stopped scrapbooking, she doesn't know how to get past that. She doesn't know how to bring that back into finding joy in her scrapbook when her ex-husband or father of her children is in so many of those pictures. And this is my response to that. And I haven't been divorced. I'm not trying to even pretend to relate to this specific situation, but this is what I would offer. Is I want you to remember that when you are in a situation like that, whether it's through divorce or death, any sort of loss, is that our story is our story. And so no matter what happens in that story does not mean that we have to completely ignore what happened. In this case, families are created because two people come together, they loved each other hopefully, but loved in this situation, they were in love, right? So that person, the dad of your children, is a part of your story, and he is a part of your children's story. So when you think about it from a child's perspective, the two options are my mom just ignores that any of that ever happened, or my mom acknowledges and accepts that he is a part of our story. He is a part of what has happened. So my suggestion in that would be that you do remember that he's a part of the story. And once you're able to emotionally be in the place that you feel like you're capable of wrapping your head and your heart around that reality, and just it is what it is that you just start with whatever you feel the most joy in. So if he literally is smothered about in all of the pictures of everything, then think about one of the happier times of those earlier years. Think about that one trip or that one year or that something, and maybe start with that so that it's not completely ignored and it's not completely not scrapbooked. One last thing I want to say to that is that you want to remember that as a documenter and as a scrapbooker, what you do and how you choose to preserve those memories will leave a very lasting impression on your children. Children are very impressionable, no matter their ages. And so it's really important that when you are scrapbooking it, and I'm being a little facetious here because you're not going to do this, but you're not going to be like, well, here's your dad, and even though he's a loser, blah, 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 blah. Like, of course you're not going to write that because he's their dad. Let's keep things positive. So even if he's not the man that you thought you married and things changed or something happened or whatever, like that happens a lot. Like that's a common story, unfortunately, but it's reality for a lot of people. So let's focus on what you feel should be the lasting impression that you leave with your children about your family situation. Just something to think about. Okay, moving on to the next comment. Someone said, having scrapped, by the way, for those of you who are new, is a word that a lot of scrapbookers use. I don't use it myself, but I just want to make sure that makes sense to you. Scrapped is like scrapbooked, okay? I think you get that. Haven't scrapped in 6 years. Adopted baby number 3 and a whole lot of stress. I cannot focus. Now, so far behind, I am not sure where to start. Or I would say start back, right? Because she used to do it. I crave paper. So going digital is hard, even though I know it could be so much easier. Also, having a hard time with the money for albums and page protectors to catch up. Awesome. Okay. I mean, not awesome that you feel overwhelmed, but awesome that you're acknowledging what your hurdles and your roadblocks are. First of all, I love that she is saying, I crave paper. It's so important to me that you connect with a way and a style and a method that you connect with. And so she knows, it sounds like she knows about the Project Life app. It's like a lifesaver for a lot of people, myself included, but no part of me wants to force the digital or the app component on someone who craves the paper. If you love the paper, then listen to yourself. You just heard it. You just heard yourself say it. You crave paper, so you need to stick with that method. Now, going to the real issue, the bigger problem. She's saying, how do I even get back into this? I've just adopted my 3rd baby. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know where to begin with catching up. here's what I want to ask. I want you to think about this. Is catching up really the priority? How important is that to you? Because I think a lot of people who are watching, who relate to this, who haven't scrapbooked in a while, this catch up phrase is something that's used a lot in scrapbooking. And I'm not saying it's a bad word. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it. I just think that sometimes we get in our heads that catching up is the priority. And I'm really wondering, how important is it to catch up with your scrapbooks? Or rather, could this particular mom of 3 now adopted kids, could she consider in her overwhelmed state of life, maybe just not worrying so much about the past right now? And maybe it would feel like a better fit for her to just focus on right now. And I mean, that right now could mean wait till the new year just because you're going by the calendar. It could be right now, October 20th, like just start something today. It's whatever you want that to be. But I don't know that catching up and going back to the past has to be the big priority. And a lot of you, like me, who have traces of OCD, who think you can't leave those gaps. And so if I'm getting back into it, I do have to catch up. Well, there's a way to catch up that's less overwhelming. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. That's, just stick around for that. Okay, before I go forward, Molly, do you have a couple questions that are coming in? Okay.
I have a few. Someone said the writing is the hardest part, and that is what stops them.
Okay.
Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, so let me just touch on that really quickly, just to say that journaling in and of itself is like its own topic. So we've actually talked as a team about jumping on Facebook Live to talk all about journaling. So I want you just to pay attention to anytime we do a Facebook Live broadcast, just be aware when we're doing this because we're going to address that as a whole topic. In order to stay on track with what we're talking about, my quick advice would be that you just don't overthink the journaling. And I know that's simple to say, but I really truly mean it. A lot of people feel like they know that pictures and stories go together and that's what makes a scrapbook, but they get caught up in feeling like they're an inadequate writer or they just don't know what to say. So my one quick tip, and then we'll move on, is I want you to pretend when you're sitting down to journal, I want you to pretend that your friend is sitting next to you and she's saying, well, tell me about that picture. And then whatever comes to mind, like literally whatever comes to mind, whether it's the facts of we went here and it was then and this is who it was, or whether you're thinking, oh my gosh, that was so funny that this happened and you would never know because it didn't even show up in the picture. Whatever you would tell that friend, write that down. So don't think about it as writing. Think about it as just telling somebody else what's going on in the picture. And that's it. Okay, so that's just a quick tip, but it's a great question. What else do we have?
Another question, what's the best way to convert physical pictures to digital?
The best way to convert, as far as scanning, I think is what they're talking about. So yeah, if you've just got boxes and piles of pictures, my best advice to convert those is, there are scanning companies and they exist for sure, but I'm a huge fan of the Fujitsu. Maybe we'll add a comment in there. Fujitsu is the brand and the name of the scanner is called Scan Snap. And I have talked a lot about it. I think my model is IX500. I don't think I'm making that up. I think that's what it is. We have it here at the office. I have it home. And the reason why I love this scanner, specifically to your question of scanning, digitizing your printed photos, is you can literally take a whole stack of photos. They don't even have to all be the same size. You can feed them in the printer and just brings them through, just like this. Super fast, super quick. I think that might be what you're asking. Then obviously all of those files are then digitized. They're scanned images, and they are files for on your computer in Dropbox and however you want to store them.
One more question.
Yep.
Someone said she has 3 grandkids and it's too hard to make a book for each of them. So what would you suggest doing?
Okay, so that's an interesting and very specific situation. So grandma here is taking it upon herself to be the one that's like keeping scrapbooks for these grandkids, which is so awesome, by the way. I do want to give you a small little caution. I don't know what your family situation is, but if these are the first 3 of many potential grandchildren, you are setting your bar really, really high, because I don't know how you're going to keep up with that. But let's just say that maybe 3 grandchildren that's what you're going to have, and you're sure of that. I think that's admirable, but I think that you want to begin with the end in mind and keep in mind that vision. And so what that means is that if you are trying to keep up with every one of these kids and their scrapbook, well, what are you trying to leave them with? Are you trying to leave each of them with like a pile of scrapbooks, or maybe perhaps one scrapbook? And if so, then you can really pace yourself and thin out how much involvement you have with doing pages for their album, knowing, begin with the end in mind, that at the end of their childhood, grandma has made each of them one scrapbook. That's 18 years in a scrapbook. Do the math, and that means you're just doing a few pages a year, which kind of keeps your boundaries in place for how much scrapbooking you do. Now, if you don't want limits, you don't want boundaries, then have fun, go crazy, but pace yourself in a way so that you keep it balanced out, because that would be kind of hard for like the oldest grandchild to have like all these beautiful scrapbook pages and then the others not so much. So it's a great question. Am I okay to move forward?
Yeah.
Okay, these are great questions. Oh my gosh, can I just tell you something? When I was thinking about this broadcast and addressing this, and this is stuff that I constantly want to address. I love talking about this. It goes right along with what I've been calling Project Photo Rescue for the last couple of years. And you can go on the Becky Higgins YouTube channel, and there's a whole playlist called Project Photo Rescue. And the whole point of it is that it's individualized help for photos and scrapbooks and just what you're doing with all of it. It's there. It exists. I want you to watch those if you haven't. But here's the thought that I was having is like, we're on Facebook Live. There's thousands of you watching or that will watch the rebroadcast. And there's like nothing more that I want than to sit down with every single one of you, just an hour with each of you, just to talk, sit on the couch together, get to know you, understand your specific individual situation, and then offer solutions and ideas and thoughts that help you feel so good about how you're moving forward, but it's very personal to you. What I'm sharing is, I'm addressing a lot of people at once, and so it's not as personalized, but my hope in knowing that it's obviously impossible for me to sit with each of you is that you get something. And that is at the end of the day, at the end of this broadcast, if you can just pull one thing that inspires you to do something, that's what I'm hoping for. Let's move on to a few more comments. All right, so this particular customer said, it's been 10 years. Busy with kids, sound familiar? And listen to this. This is so interesting and so good. Busy with kids, and I feel guilty taking time for fun stuff when there is always another load of laundry, a room to clean, kid to read to, dinner to make, and on and on. Nothing happens if it's not a priority, friends. Like nothing's going to happen if it's not a priority. And so I 100% relate to this woman. I get it. I'm a mom. I'm a full-time working mom. I understand there's always so much to do. Again, my message is not to force scrapbooking on anyone. There's a time and a season for everything. But if you're feeling like you really do want to do something, but you're feeling like this woman and you're like, I feel guilty doing something fun, I want you to remember something. Scrapbooking's fun. It should be. But it's also the most beautiful, important type of hobby that you could have. It's more than a hobby. It's keeping a record of your family's story or your story. And it's leaving a legacy. Even if you don't have children, it is still a process that is such a beautiful way to appreciate how blessed you are and acknowledge the good things in your life. And it's therapeutic. I mean, how many of you who have scrapbook can raise your hand right now and say, yes, it's therapeutic? I can attest for that, right? A lot of people understand why it is, and you almost can't really fully understand it until you do it. So let me just address like one tip that I would have for her, and if you relate to this, and that is to actually physically calendar your scrapbooking time. So even if it's like, hey, this Saturday I'm going to spend half a day just wrapping my head around what I want to do and scrapbooking and being in that space, and by calendaring it and planning for it and preparing your family, right? Because if you have kids, preparing your family and your spouse to know, hey, this is important to me. I really feel like this is something I'm supposed to do. How can anyone not respect that and support you, right? And so if you block off that time to say, this is what I'm going to do, and everyone, yourself included, is mentally prepared, then I believe that you'll have a successful experience with that. To take it one step further, scheduling and calendaring, I've even done that for myself as an active scrapbooker. I never stopped scrapbooking. I've been doing it for more than 20 years. I calendar, it's a repeating item on my Sunday calendar that I do my past week's weekly layout, and I use the Project Life app to do that. But I have it in the calendar, so it's a priority. So no matter what, even though I naturally am excited to do it anyway, I make sure it happens, and I make sure not to get far behind because it's in there, and I know I'm going to spend those 10 minutes every Sunday doing it because it's important to me. And so just remember that when you are so busy, and most of you are so busy, and I 100% relate to that, you make a priority what you choose to make a priority. That's a great, valid concern. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, here's the next one, and then we'll take a couple more questions that I think are probably coming through. I stopped because after a decade or more of buying the latest and greatest and attending every CKU, which is Creating Keepsakes University. I used to work for Creating Keepsakes, and we would do these events, right, full of classes. She's like attending every CKU workshop and class I could. I was on technique and product overload. What? That's a thing, guys. That's so legit. Okay, I had an entire room packed full of product I couldn't begin to use. Okay, this is not a conversation we could have had 15 years ago. Scrapbooking was a new industry 20 years ago. I know because I was there in the beginning. Like I've seen the ebb and flow. I've seen the rise and the fall. I've seen the evolution of this industry. And there's no way 20 years ago that we were going to be having a same conversation. Guys, we weren't even digital 20 years ago. Now we're facing not only overload on information and products and ideas and classes and workshops, and especially the last decade, right? When scrapbooking was like crazy. But we have an overload of digital images and ideas at our fingertips. Instagram, blogs, I mean, you name it. There's so much inspiration out there. We're part of that. We're trying to inspire you. That's our goal. We want you to scrapbook, right? And so this is also just a very relatable concern. So think to yourself, am I one of those people that I just kind of stopped because it just was too much? I have too much stuff. So this is my suggestion. This is my thought to that. Take a hard look at what you have. Now, this is going to be hard for a lot of people, but I just want to plant the seed to just help you think about it. Just think about it. Don't do anything like crazy tomorrow, but just think about it. Could it be the right time, if you're literally not scrapbooking because you're overwhelmed with all that stuff, could it be time that you declutter? And I mean serious declutter. I mean take a hard look, bring it all to one place if it isn't already. Look at all of your crafting and scrapbooking and paper stuff, all your embellishments, all of your albums, bring it all in one place and go, does this motivate me to scrapbook or does this overwhelm me and so I just kind of don't? Right? You know what I mean? I think from a mental, emotional, psychological perspective, I believe that a lot of people don't scrapbook for exactly the reason that she said. Because if they've been around in this industry, taking classes, buying products, learning and all of that, and gathering for all these years, then that's very overwhelming. So even though maybe you haven't acknowledged it like that before, perhaps it's a really good time to look at what you have and bring it back. Like bring it back to only the stuff that are like the most essential things that you need to have to scrapbook. Consider donating. Trust me, there are schools and charities and organizations that could use your stuff. Consider donating, or to friends or your kids or whatever. But maybe just get rid of most of it. And everyone has a different situation. Everyone has different amounts of stuff, but it's something that I would consider. Okay, do we have other questions? Are we okay? Like,
we're
is
doing great.
This is working?
This is working.
Okay.
My computer is having problems.
Oh, okay. We're making sure the Wi-Fi is still connected.
But the camera looks like it's doing great.
Okay. Do we have another question or two, or should I keep going with the...
I have a few questions.
Okay.
So one person said her daughter has 20 books that she scrapbooked for her, and her son has 1 page.
Oh.
And she feels so much guilt.
Right.
And just doesn't know
how to make up for that. Yeah, that's an interesting scenario, but not uncommon. 20 scrapbooks versus 1 page is going to make your son feel a little less than, right? Like, and I of course don't know your specific situation with like how many years between and why are there 20 versus none, and like, you know, and none of that really matters. The point is like, how do you want to move forward with that? And I would not suggest that you need to make 20 scrapbooks for your son just because your daughter has 20 scrapbooks. I think you need to be smart about it. And obviously when you made those scrapbooks for your daughter, you were like gung-ho scrapbooker. You were totally in this, in it to win it, all about it, and then life happened, right? Like without knowing you, that's probably safe to say. I think that you should just begin with the end in mind. I'm going to say that to every answer that I have because it's specific to every point that is being made. If you begin with the end in mind and you know that your daughter is going to be leaving her childhood nest with 20 scrapbooks, separate that from your son. We're not comparing now. What do you want your son to have? I'm guessing you don't want him to have 20 scrapbooks because that's a lot, right? But what do you want him to have? Begin with that end goal in mind. If it's 2 scrapbooks or 4 scrapbooks or 1 scrapbook or whatever, make that decision, wrap your head around it, and then do the math and make the game plan to say, well, then his whole childhood is going to be summarized in this many albums, and so now I can get going. That's a very short summarized answer because we got to keep going. But
well, and she said that she used to teach classes. Like she was.
Oh, yes. See, you were gung-ho was the description for you then. You were in it.
And her babies are 8 years apart, so she had all that time, and then...
That totally makes sense. I feel your pain. I hope that what I'm offering as a suggestion is a possible way for you to look at it. It's not about creating 20 scrapbooks for him. That's not necessarily the solution. But the solution does involve thinking about the end result before you try to play a little catch up with him. We're going to talk about that catch up here in a minute. Was there something else? And
Let's do one last question.
One more, and then I've got a couple more.
Someone just wondered, what do you do with how do you include the physical memorabilia in a digital or app book?
Super great question. So we have, will you hand me the 8x8? And then, step into the closet and grab the envelope pages. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So Molly's going to grab that, but I'm going to explain. So this is an example of an 8x8 album. And these are 8x8 page protectors. And so if let's say you're using the app and you're scrapbooking, you order those prints directly through the app, we ship them to you. They're beautiful. You slip those prints directly into these page protectors. That's how that works. So that's how you combine this with memorabilia is we have what is called an envelope page. We have these available in every size. I didn't think I was going to get off on this tangent, but you asked a really great question. This is an envelope page. Looks like an envelope, self-closing flap, and you put memorabilia in there. It's sturdy. You can see it's sturdy plastic, safe for your stuff. It self-closes. It has a little pocket in the front to be able to stick a 3x4 Project Life card so you can label it, and this is where your memorabilia can go. My second tip really quick on that is there are some things that just don't need to be kept, but they are still preserved with your scrapbook because you've taken a picture of it, and you include that picture of the fill-in-the-blank trophy, whatever, and you've included that in your scrapbook. Just to give you a quick glance, these are different sizes. Since you asked, it's a great question. That was 8x8. Here's 6x6. Here's 6x12. Here's 12x12. We also have 6x8. So we have several sizes to choose from, and it's a great solution to getting your memorabilia in those albums that are not physical.
And so, a side note, it's the same question. Well, what if you print photo books?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so if you print photo books, because photo books through the app are going to be launching soon, because we are in the beta phase of that. So that's where we are with that. If you print photo books, do we even have one? Oh, it's in the closet. Okay, we're not going to get too far off on that tangent, but if you do that, and I'm going to show you what a photo book is like, then where does the memorabilia fit in? Remember my tip number 2. Photograph the memorabilia, include photos of it. But for actual tangible stuff that you do want to keep, then what I would suggest, and what I'm actually doing myself, because I've been thinking about this for a long time, and we haven't even launched them yet. This is an example of a photo book, right? And it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to show you that it lays flat. It is fantastic. Another topic for another day. But if you're printing photo books through the app, or even your digital pages that you're printing into photo books, the memorabilia and the way I'm storing it is I'm having a separate album, and I've already started it as a separate album, and I just keep the envelope pages in there. And so I have an envelope page for every year that I would be doing this to say, well, here's all of our memorabilia from that year. It's separate from this. And that works for me. So you do what works for you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, is it okay that I move forward on a couple more things? We've been going for a little while now, and I don't want to make this too terribly long, but I do have 2 more comments that are worth sharing, and then I'm going to give you my 3-step game plan solution that I think will work for most of you, okay? So this one says, I know this sounds silly, Nothing silly, guys. I know this sounds silly, but I haven't scrapbooked in a while because I don't think my photos look that great. You relate to this at all? I feel like my photos all need a little bit of editing in order to look good once they're printed. I'm not talking major photoshopping, but you see so much cool editing all over social media, it just makes normal pics look anemic compared to what our eyes have gotten used to seeing. I'm an average iPhone camera user, and I do try to learn and incorporate photo tips, yet I still feel like the photos are flat. That is, I mean, think about that. Do you relate to that? Okay, in this day and age of technology and social media, and there's so many cool things that come with that, I'm a big fan myself. As long as it's being used to inspire and help other people, I'm a big fan of social media. Obviously, there's downfalls to it. But what we're talking about here is that it's so easy to get caught up in what we see and what we get used to. We can either be inspired by that or we can let it bring us down. And that's called the comparison game. So we don't try to, but I think a lot of us, especially women, are innately comparing. We shouldn't. We shouldn't. Ain't nobody got time for that, but we do. And so because we see all these light and bright and beautiful and well-composed shots, we kind of think that our photography stinks if we're not taking pictures like that. And this is the one bit of insight that I would share on that, and then we're gonna keep moving on. I want you to flip the situation. I want you to think about your grandma. And I want you to imagine that your grandma is in this predicament. And your grandma maybe who is nearing the end of her life, or maybe she's already gone, okay? Let's pretend like grandma faced that same predicament. Would you want grandma to say, oh, but my pictures don't look as good as I usually see them by other people, so I'm just not gonna scrapbook? Or would you prefer grandma to go, you know what? So my pictures aren't gonna make it to a magazine, but this is my story. These are the pieces of my life. This is what's going on in our family's world. So I'm gonna leave this for others to see who we are and what we're about. That's it. It's perspective. It's just thinking about it in a way that when you and I are just gone, right? Like one day we're all gonna be gone. Are we choosing to leave something of ourselves, or are we choosing to go, you know what? I have this excuse and that excuse, so I'm just gonna not do it because it's easier to not do it because I feel bad about my pictures or whatever, right? So we don't want grandma to not leave a scrapbook. When most of us don't have scrapbooks from grandma. We wish that, but that wasn't, I mean, that's another generational topic for another day. But that's how I want you to think about that. All right. Someone said, I started scrapbooking 14 years ago. I try to stay current, but it is extremely hard to do with sports and work. By the time my evening slows down, I'm exhausted. I want to find the love I once had. It's starting to feel like a chore. Yeah, interesting again. I would never want to think about scrapbooking as a chore, right? But guess what? I totally have. I have felt that. You want to know why Project Life exists? Why I created it in the first place? Because scrapbooking felt like a chore. I loved my pictures and my memories. In fact, I loved being creative, but I was completely burning out on this notion that everything had to be this elaborate creation. That's the whole premise of why Project Life became a thing and why it became kind of a movement and a lift in our whole industry, is that people needed something that was simpler, that didn't require this creative, embellishment heavy approach, right? So my thought to you who said this and anyone who relates to it is to think about the way you're approaching scrapbooking, because I have a feeling whoever shared this is thinking about scrapbooking the way she thought about scrapbooking 20 years ago. And unfortunately, when you do that and you lock yourself into this idea that it's a certain way, then you haven't allowed yourself to evolve. Scrapbooking has evolved. Project Life is a part of the evolution. The Project Life app is an even further part of that evolution. But guess what? Project Life may not be the solution for you. The app may not be a solution to you. Maybe it's something different, but the point is to open your mind to what you feel could be a little bit more interesting to you right now, a little bit more of a solution. So if you are feeling like it's a chore and you're feeling like you don't enjoy it, I want you to reassess, what do you like about preserving memories? And then rethink the way that you actually approach it. There are so many options. And if you do want to understand more about, if you're not familiar already and you're not sure exactly what Project Life is, then if you go to YouTube, the Becky Higgins channel, right there's a video called Welcome to Project Life, and in 3 minutes we'll give you an overview of this is what the physical product looks like and how it works. This is the digital, this is the app, and that will probably help you, okay? Last one, last comment I'm gonna read, and then I'm gonna give you my game plan, all right? I haven't scrapbooked consistently for a while. Now, let me just mention something about this. Well, let me just read it. Okay. I haven't scrapbooked consistently for a while because I get so overwhelmed. My pictures are such a mess. My supplies are such a mess. I'm so far behind. I don't know if I'll ever get caught up. So I don't even know where to start. I want to. I have the time. See, some of you don't relate to that, but some of you are in a stage of life where you have time now. I have the time now that both of my boys are in school, but every time I sit down to actually do it, it's just too much. So I end up just staring at everything and never get started. Oh, okay. So this, I'm gonna stop reading people's comments from social media the other day, and this perfectly segues into my main message that I want you to feel, especially because so many of you have been scrapbooking for a long time. Scrapbooking, for some reason, for a lot of people, is viewed as an all or nothing thing. I cannot emphasize enough that scrapbooking is not an all or nothing thing. That's like the most important message I have to share with you today. Please don't think of it as I'm either a scrapbooker or I'm not. That's not what this is about. If you used to scrapbook, and that's the specific audience that I'm talking to right now, those of you who used to scrapbook have probably in your brain this idea that it is like I'm either doing all this stuff and I'm regularly doing it and I have lots of scrapbooks, or forget it, I'm out. And since a lot of you have stopped scrapbooking for a long time, I just need you to realize that it isn't all or nothing. So let's go right into what I'm gonna suggest is a 3-step plan for what you can do, the action that you can take. All right, so first of all, number 1, let go of any guilt that you feel. That mom of 2 kids, 8 years apart, the daughter has 20 scrapbooks and the son has 1 page, let go of the guilt. If you're choosing, and it is a choice, if you're choosing to hang on to those feelings of guilt, like, oh, I shoulda, I woulda, I coulda, like if you're really hanging on to that, you are so hindering yourself from being able to move forward. So number 1, let go of the guilt and change your mentality to think it's not all or nothing, but it can just be one thing. Step number 1, choose just one thing, right? Step number 2, let's get specific now. Sorry, I just kicked the camera. Got wiggly there for a second. Step number 2, I want you to choose today or this weekend, I want you to choose one thing that you can make a scrapbook about. Again, this is coming from a very deep place I feel that is, it's not all or nothing. It's not, okay? So you're either choosing a person to create a scrapbook about, say it's a child or a spouse or whatever, or a place or a trip, some sort of vacation that you went on or someplace you travel, or an event, a wedding, whatever, like any special occasion, like any topic, theme, person, event, anything that just resonates with you. It's really important that you're not just like picking something out of the hat. I want you to really think in your mind right now, I'm gonna put you on the spot, and in your mind, and you can even say it right here on Facebook, what's the one topic or thing, person, place, whatever, that kind of makes you excited when you think about it? Like, this would be amazing if I had a scrapbook about, fill in the blank. What's that one thing? That's the one thing I want you to focus in on. That's step number 2, is choose that, what you're gonna do for that one scrapbook. And along with that, beginning with the end in mind, because I bring that up a lot because it matters and it makes sense for scrapbooking. Beginning with the end in mind, I want you to determine, like let's say you really just, you wanna do that trip that you went on this summer. You went to Yellowstone, okay? Let's just go with that. You're excited about it, you're motivated. Now, I want you to determine, okay, it's Yellowstone. I can do that one scrapbook. I don't have to become a big time scrapbooker doing like all these scrapbooks and doing it all the time, but I know that I can put a Yellowstone scrapbook together. And if I do that, and if I'm beginning with the end in mind, then the other piece of that is, what do I want that end scrapbook to be? Do I want it to be a big 12 by 12 album? Do I want it to be a little 6 by 8 album? Do I want to create it in the app? Do I want to make the physical pages? Like, just kind of think through some of those things, not to overwhelm yourself with choices, but simply what's going to feel like I connect with it? What's going to feel like the perfect end result? Make those decisions as you begin with the end in mind before you even start with the project. Now, step number 3, get only or use only the supplies that you need for that one scrapbook. And this is where I'm going to ask for Molly's help, because I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Now, if you have a room full of scrapbook supplies, you probably have everything you need. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. If you know that all of that is overwhelming you and you don't have Project Life, then you need to know about Project Life, because it doesn't involve all of the creative embellishing and, starting from scratch. It's literally just slipping things in pockets, right? That's what it is. Most of you know about that, but if you don't, watch the video on YouTube. All right, so let me just show you just a few examples of creating one scrapbook. So in order to create an entire scrapbook, and this is so literal, okay? All you need to create the entire scrapbook is an album. There's 3 things, okay? First of all, you need the album. And all of what I'm showing you can be found in our shop at BeckyHiggins.com. You can find it at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Joann. You can find it at most independent scrapbook and craft retailers. But I'm just letting you know, most of the variety that we have is going to be in our shop, okay? So 1, you need the album. 2, you need a big pack of photo pocket pages. This, in this box, has a package of 60 pages that have pockets already in them, so that you literally are just slipping your 4x6 and 3x4 cards in there. All right, and 3x4 cards, what is this foreign language that I speak, for those of you who are new? You need a core kit. Album, pocket pages, core kit. Core kit has all of the cards that you would need, and even more than you would need, to fill an entire album. This, by the way, is called the Little Moments Edition. We have lots of different editions, not to confuse anything, but just so you have choices of which style you want. So 1, 2, 3. If you decide that your project from this 3-step thought is that you want to create a Yellowstone album, because that's the example I just made up, then all you need to create that scrapbook is the album, the photo pocket pages, and the core kit, okay? That's 12 by 12. Well, let's say that beginning with it in mind, you don't want a big scrapbook. You don't want this big bulky thing around in your family room or on your lap. We have smaller sizes. This is a 6 by 8 album. 6 by 8 still is the math, 4 by 6 photos, 3 by 4 cards, and all you would need to complete that album is, guess what? The album, the photo pocket pages, and a small package of, this is called a value kit for Project Life. 1, 2, 3. Same concept, just a smaller size. We happen to grab, this one is the new Holly Jolly, which has sold out a couple of times, and it's coming back in stock again because you guys love it so much. But this could be right here, your project. You could do just a little 6 by 8 Christmas album. Here's another quick example. If you're using the Project Life app, and again, we're focusing on just one album, that's your big takeaway here, then all you need is the 8 by 8 album if you choose to do that size, or 12 by 12, and then you just need a big pack of the page protectors that are not divided. Because like I said, if you scrapbook in the app, you're just getting those printed pages that you order through the app, slipping them into page protectors. All right, I'm going to stop there because my point isn't to show you my entire shop, but I do want you to understand that as you make decisions about how to move forward, the solution exists. The possibilities are endless, but they're also so simple. And it's very personal. That's why I wish I could just sit with each of you for an hour. But I hope, as we've talked about, that you can understand and see that step 1, let go of the guilt. Just let go of that notion that it's all or nothing. Step 2, choose one topic, theme, person, place, event, whatever, and focus on that. Begin with the end in mind and envision what that finished project looks like. And then step number 3, you only need to get the supplies that you need to create that album. Please do not walk down the craft store aisle thinking that you're supposed to spend $300 on stickers. That is so 1997. That is what we used to do. That's why so many of you relate to having so much, and I'll even say too much product. It doesn't have to be that way. All right. I kind of care a little bit about what we're talking about, don't I? I get excited because I feel like there's hope. It exists, and I want you to feel that solution. Are there any other questions that I really should? Now, I can't address everybody's specific things, but we should wrap up. But are there any questions that came up, Molly, that I absolutely need to address?
No,
okay. All right. So this has been long enough. We'll go ahead and wrap up. I want to let you know two last things really quick. We are running the most fun contest right now this week, and the deadline is tomorrow. If you want to win, keep playing with my collar here. If you want to win a full year's worth of Project Life, which includes all sorts of stuff that you can see on the blog, that contest goes through tomorrow. And what you need to do is outlined in my Facebook Live broadcast from Tuesday. So you can look that up. But basically, the call to action on that is that you jump on Facebook Live and you talk to your friends and tell them why you love Project Life, how it's helping you. I'm not making too big of a deal out of that here because a lot of you watching aren't using Project Life because you used to scrapbook. See what I mean? But if you happen to be watching and you are a Project Lifer and you have so much that you want to say about it, then jump on Facebook Live, tell your friends and family, tag us, and then we are going to choose from one of you guys to win the full enchilada of prizes. Yeah.
Allison asked, how do you tag us in the video?
Oh, like when you do Facebook Live? Okay, so you tag us in the comments, don't you? Mm-hmm. I think you literally just start typing Becky Higgins LLC and it should pop up and tag us. I think it's that simple. Yeah. And if you've never done Facebook Live broadcast yourself, it's really easy. You just go to publish, just like you're going to post a status update, and there's a button that says live. Isn't that what it says? Mm-hmm. You tap on live and it counts you down 3, 2, 1, and boom, you're on camera. And you don't have to make a big deal out of it. Just be yourself, be you. You can spend 15 seconds or 15 minutes. Doesn't matter. Just talk to your friends and family about why you love Project Life and how it's helping you. That's it.
So Allison, who had asked how to tag you in the video, she said it doesn't pop up. So I'm not sure what that means. What we'll do is we'll look into it and then comment on there exactly how to do it.
Okay, you heard what Molly said, so we will look into that and comment. So that's a great question because I'm not sure why. All right, so closing out on this, I just want to remind you that what I love more than anything, like really within my work, is helping people to cultivate a good life and record it. I know the blessings that come from scrapbooking. I feel them, I live them. I get testimonials from customers every day. We see it on social media. We get emails from you. There's so much good that comes from it. At the end of the day, I just want you to have success with your scrapbooking. If you are not already getting our emails, we share so much valuable content there, and you can be sure to get on our email list by going to beckyhiggins.com/subscribe. That's all I got. All right, bye guys. See you later.